Bonjour, bienvenue, welcome one and all, and to another one of my live streams. Today I'm joined by a good friend, a client and long-standing business associate, Vicky Poole of Tender Response. That's her.
Hello.
I love that. You may or may not know this, but she has developed a close knowledge and association with all things to do with public sector tendering. And there are many benefits. We talked about that before. But today, the focus is going to be the top 3 things you can do to ensure that you're as ready as you can be to jump into the world of tendering or tender response, that is. Vicky, welcome.
Welcome. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. So when you're responding to anything to do with public sector, you've got to be organized, which is one of those, it sounds like a 4-letter word, doesn't it? To be organized. You need to have everything together. So there are 3 things that usually scupper smaller businesses. And when I say smaller businesses, I'm talking about the SMEs. So we all know that we have insurance because we get the email once a year, but you may be asked to, have a copy of those documents with your tender response. So if you're like 10 minutes before submission, you've spent an age doing your tender docs and you haven't got all of your like relevant company information that you can literally copy and paste or choose to upload, you're then going to run the risk of not being able to submit. So the first one is having all of your company information together in one place. Now, company information, these are like things that you think you've got, but you don't know that you need to know. So I'll give you an example. So if you've got a company with more than one stakeholder, like a person of significant control, there is standard information that you need to capture about those individuals. And I'm not talking about shoe size or height or, lipstick color preference. I'm talking about date of birth, where they physically live, because they'll be checked against, location. So you can't use your registered address. So if you've got silent partners, you need to have this information. Date of birth and a true date of birth, because I always say I'm 21 unless that, I always say I'm 21 with just several years of experience.
Who falls for that? All right.
I did get one person who gave me a funny look, but, in fairness to them, I mean, you can't really see all the wrinkles here. It's called having children.
Yeah.
Yes, they add 20 years the second you have them. So all your company information, and I'm not just, it's all of the stuff that you need to know. And it's, have you ever been done for fraud, or have you ever had a county court judgment? These are things that people within your business may not wish to share with you. So if you have a silent partner, it's a case of we need to comply with this. So can you just do a double check and see if you're compliant? Because it's not just about you as a company, it's about each individual as well. Sometimes.
So hang on. So would they be looking for county court judgments against the director as well?
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yes. So is a general rule of thumb, if there's anybody within your directors or a person of significant control in your business that has been done for fraud, or county court judgments or laundering or anything on the naughty list, it will impact your ability to respond to public sector tenders. If they have a significant control, so a person of significant control is 25% or over, and you've got your 3 categories. You've got 25 to 50, 50 to 75, and over 75. So if someone's got 10% stake in your business, you don't have to declare that, because they're not going to be in a position by where they can functionally sway the business. But you may wish to capture that information just for.
They've got a county court judgment against them, but it's been satisfied. Does that count, or
it still shows up? It still shows up, and then it's at the discretion of the procurer.
Right.
So if you didn't pay for your like your biscuit when you had your coffee, and they came for you for that, you might be a little bit more lenient. Whereas if it's, you got done because you didn't pay your invoice for 18 months, it's slightly different. So I think it's horses for courses.
Right. Okay.
So if anyone's looking at this and thinking, oh, crumbs, I'm not entirely sure what sort of standard information I need, because there's quite a lot. And most of it is tick box. Some of it is just putting it into the right format for bids, and you just copy and paste. there's a form on my website. So tenderresponse.co.uk/resources. You want to have a look at the SQQ template. So that is the standard questions that you get asked for. And you get asked for these in every bid, sometimes on every portal request as well. Alrighty.
Right.
The next one, which again, it sounds so simple, but it's amazing how many companies I'm working with where they don't have these to hand, and it drives me bonkers. Certificates and accreditations.
So certificates, we're talking about what?
So if you are registered to a professional body,
right,
and you have gained that certificate that is reviewed annually, I need the most current version of that certificate. So just because you have a membership to City and Guilds, that's 12 months. So you get the certificate for 12 months. Don't be sending me the certificate for 2021 when you're in 2024. Just don't.
Right. So they have to be the up-to-date ones. Most of them you have to reapply for, don't you?
Yeah, so particularly if your industry in the way that you work in, say you have any sort of like, say, contractor, CSCS cards, construction line, ISO compliance, all of these are subject to an annual review. So you have to keep yourself up to date. But just because you keep yourself up to date for that one area, you also need to get a copy of your documents and then manage those, because there's nothing worse. In fact, one of my clients fell foul of this last year. Their insurance ran out on a particular day, which was the day before a tender was being submitted.
Right.
So they couldn't get across a copy of their new insurance documents.
Oh, God.
So I'd said to them, I said, well, it's great. We can do the tender. It's not that onerous, but be mindful that your insurance is like going to lapse. And, when you're working with someone like me, you kind of know a little bit of the process and the rules. So what we did for this client in particular is that we submitted the current insurance to say, yes, we know it expires.
Right.
New insurance certificates are sent on the day of expiry, so we can't get a hold of them now. And then once we got a hold of them, funnily enough, there was a clarification question saying, can we have a copy of your new certificates, please?
Of course.
In which case, because the client was supported by me and I'm highly organized, or rather my team are highly organized, we were chasing the insurance company from about 9:15 that morning. So we had the documents, the client had the documents, and then it was very easy just to upload.
Right.
But of course, now I have a copy of these documents for my clients. So every time we get asked to register on a new portal for the client or respond to an RFI, or do you have these requirements from their client base, with the client's permission, of course, we respond and say, yes, of course we do. And here's the relevant information. And I attach the ISOs, the industry certs, insurances, and whatever else is needed. Now, I'm not trying to suggest here that you can use tender response as a filing system, because we're not. We do respond to tenders, and this client is part of my tender support service. So they are slightly different, and it's nothing that I would do for everybody. But yeah, I act as an extension.
Before we finish here today, run through the different levels of your service anyway, because we often make reference to it. It'd be useful for people to understand. But okay, so you've got two aspects. So you mentioned you were going to have three.
Yes. The third one is references. So when it comes to any sort of contract, regardless of whether you're buying a whole load of cups or whether you're buying laptops, people are going to want to double check you to make sure that you're honest, you're honorable, you wear the right lippy. Yes. So they ask for references. Now, public sector tenders is slightly different. So it's not just hey, Vic, you go live on LinkedIn all the time. What do you think of your friend Gareth? And someone picks up the phone and you can have a conversation. In public sector tenders, it's not like that. You've got to have everything written down. So if you're writing it down and then you speak to Gareth and it's fundamentally different, it asks questions. So references take a long time to get approved. You've got to speak to the client. You've got to get the right information from them, which of course we have a template for that for our client base to help them do that, or they can ask us to do it for them. We then have to script the reference and then send it over to the client to make sure that they're happy with it. Only at that point do they say, yes, I'm happy with it. That reference gets a tick. And just because you have that reference doesn't automatically mean that you can use that reference for every bid, because there will be some bids where it's not suitable. So you need to be business ready and have references for every product that you offer. So if you're a plumbing company and you do complete, if you do boiler refits or you do new plant rooms, you got to have at least 3 references for each of the services you provide, or 500 words explanation of the services that you deliver and how brilliant you are at doing that. For more information, support what you like.
Use LinkedIn recommendations for any of this, can you?
Pardon, sorry?
Can you use LinkedIn recommendations for it, for your testimonial?
No, you can't. Because the person needs to be fundamentally contacted by the council. If you get through to the next round, they will contact your references. And having a LinkedIn reference, it could be the trigger point to get a full reference. It's not, I wouldn't use that as a reference, and I can't think of any bid writer out there that I know who would.
Okay, good. But you could always reapproach those people and say, you gave me a LinkedIn reference. Could you give me a full reference to help me win this tender? I suppose.
Pretty much. Yeah. And a lot of people out there are very open to the fact. I'm working with a client at the moment, and we're trying to get them on some frameworks, because a lot of their contracts are behind these frameworks. A lot of their target contracts are behind these frameworks. So I'm speaking to them and I'm helping them get their references from their client base. And I'm speaking to like, hey, Gareth, you've been doing this service with X for such a long time. They're responding to a framework and they'd like to use you as a reference. What do you say? Most people say yes. I've never come across anyone who said no yet.
Right.
Yeah. So what we're talking about here is tender readiness. And you got to have your ducks in a row, because there's nothing worse than responding to a 15,000 word tender and you've got to do all this as well.
So preparation prevents pretty poor performance.
Pretty much. The P's, yes.
Yes, the 5 P's. All right. So as I said before, I'd really like to briefly go through what the offerings of tender response are, so people can understand that they don't have to be spending thousands of pounds up front to get going. They could be spending a couple of hundred, and they could have in the palms of their hand within a few weeks, hopefully, the ideal tender for them.
Potentially, yeah. Okay, great. So let's start this one from the top. So here at Tender Response, we offer the principal stages of tender production. We offer a tender finder service, imaginatively named Tender Finder, which starts from as little as £37 a month.
Now, does that include finding the right frameworks for people to be on as well?
It does, yes. So we find the right frameworks for you. We'll pull out all of the relevant contracts, including preferred supplier agreements that are posted online as well. We pull out everything that you could need.
But some frameworks are better for some kinds of tendering than others, right?
Correct. Yes, correct.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So once you've done that, what's the next level up?
The next level up, so we move into then the tender reads. So once you've got an opportunity, you can choose to read the pack, or you can ask us to do it for you. And then for that, we will go through the tender pack. We'll highlight anything in there that we think is slightly untoward, or things that you may wish to consider, and highlight the relevant bits for your business. So we'll say section 5, section 4, whatever it is, and say these are things that you need to be mindful of if you're going to respond to this contract.
So, I mean, I might be somebody out there listening to this and thinking, well, I can read through a tender. I don't need to trouble.
700 pages. Yeah, right. Most terms and conditions on a framework are disgustingly long. It's one of the reasons why we have such a big team, because we each divvy up the pack and take so many pages each. And that's how we get through them so quickly. Right.
So what would you be looking for that perhaps the average Joe or Mo, I don't know, is that a female of Joe? Joe could be the female. Anyway, might miss? What would you look for?
Oh, we look at the payment structures. So a lot of organizations, a lot of councils say, your invoice has to be sent on a weekly basis or by received by this day, and then we timeline it out. So we'll work with clients to understand what their capacity is for cash flow, because there are some contracts where you have to submit your invoice on like the last working day of the month. and then you get paid at the end of the following month. And then there are some where your invoices are submitted by the 5th working day of the month, and then they're paid on the 30th working day or the last working day of the next month. So you're effectively riding 3 months of your cash flow, which is suitable for some companies and not others.
It sounds very onerous for a lot of companies, certainly.
Yeah, we look at contract changes. So just because you have, like, say, a cleaning contract, it doesn't mean that you're going to pick up all of the other bits of business, because if your contract is for public spaces, there'll be a definition of what public spaces includes.
We've got tender finder.
Tender read, and the other side of tender read is if you've got a tender that you've produced and you just want someone to go through with a red pen and mark it and just kind of see where your development areas are, we do that as well. It's all as part of that tender read service. And if that tender, if you want us to write the tender for you, it's into tender write. Very imaginatively named here at Tender Response. And we will write everything for you. So we'll do all your policies if we need them, any company decks for service management, and like the full response about your business. And the last service is tender support, which literally we kind of parachute into your business and we act as an extension of you. And we effectively run as like a sales agent. So we'll plug into your sales team or the operations team, however it is you choose to work it. And then we provide updates and activities from a sales perspective. So it'll be, we found these 5 tenders, we've qualified them. You want to work in London in the southeast, these are in the northwest, they don't meet your criteria, or they do meet your criteria, and here's the information that you need to know. Is it in or out?
I suppose you could save an awful lot of money and time by not going, off half-cocked in the wrong direction, because you've done the full read, you've identified this is the right one to go for, and you're making sure that you're capable of fulfilling the requirements of that tender.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, look, guys, as ever, I want to thank Vicky for taking the time out of her busy day to keep us updated onto this. Remember what she said at the beginning. If you are at all worried, replay this video. Those top 3 things for bid readiness can be a game changer, because having information at hand at the point of submitting a bid is critical.
Absolutely fundamental.
Any last summary contents to add before we close this?
Top 3 things that you need to remember is putting all your company information together in one place and saving it and keeping it up to date. Keep all of your certificates with there as well that are industry regulated, and review them annually to make sure that you're up to date. And please, please, please get your references shipshape. If anybody would like any further qualifications or questions, I'm very easily bought with hobnobs and bourbon biscuits, and I'm sure Gareth will facilitate an introduction.
I will, absolutely, at all times. With me being type 2, no hobnobs or biscuits required. I wish you all safe and happy business this week, and of course, safe mental health. Thank you very much, Vicky. Bye-bye now.
Bye, guys.